Content presented in Cheshire Corners is for educational and informational purposes only. Please consult a legal professional if you have any questions or concerns about the content of this disclaimer, this series, or the legal implications surrounding psychedelic substances in your jurisdiction.
Welcome to Cheshire Corners. My name is Rita Tsaluk, and I welcome you to trip together through the looking glass.
What we're going to talk about today concerns each and every one of you, really, because we're all humans, we all have brains. And even though we might be coming from different religions, different backgrounds, different professions, different colors, our brains function pretty much the same way. And at the center of the topic is actually psychedelics. But I want to get one thing very clear from the very outset of this talk. It is not my purpose to promote the use of any legal or illegal substances at all. It is my purpose today to poke at your childish curiosity that's been asleep for so many years and seek to lift the stigma surrounding these substances, because I believe, and science believes as well, that there is so much potential in both medicine, research, and in terms of, personal development. They can be used as personal tools.
Somebody in the Amazon, out of 150,000 different species of plants and trees, selected two that are not psychoactive on their own, but when put together, create an extraordinary visionary brew. And ayahuasca means the vine of the dead. And what it's connected to in South American religious and spiritual thinking is what happens to us when we die.
People throughout the world are seeking comfort, but not understanding. And as long as they seek comfort, they will never find spiritual comfort, because behind it, there is no true understanding of life. And for the understanding of life, you require harmony born out of this vast chaos which is taking place in the life of everyone and in every nation. For the establishment of harmony, you require no binding or limitation on life.
Many times people begin to feel anxiety over the fear of dying. They begin to become depressed. And then we also say, just a loose term, of existential distress. What is on the other side? And that total fear that can overtake an individual. So I felt that psychedelics, not for everybody, right? But that psychedelics can help a lot of people overcome that fear.
And I think psychedelics has the ability to really help us come to terms with our death and dying. When I think about the longer term vision, I think, we as a society need to bring death and dying back to a sacred journey.
Around 1570, 1575, after the Spaniards had arrived and had been up here for a few decades, there was an epidemic of virus, germs, disease, and sickness that were brought from Europe that our people had no immunities to. And it wiped out a very large portion of the Dene. As many as probably 85% of our people perished. Now that's a time that is called running from the dying or running from death in our oral history. Annabakenahonzor is what they call it. But it was during that time that our people developed a great fear of death. It was that if you had a relative that had gotten sick or something and you tried to provide them with care, then it was more likely you would also contract that sickness and you would also perish. And so it was that our people say that when someone became ill, and they would just encourage their families to leave them and allow them to die alone. And so that's what happened. during that time period, and our people became very fearful of the dying and the death. And it's been that way for many, many generations now, even to the present day.
And we've gotten away from that, right? I mean, our medical establishment really fights to keep us alive regardless. And psychedelics, for some people, can really help, first of all, do some basic things like reduce anxiety, reduce depression, but bring you front and center with unity consciousness.
And transcend and experience this ocean of pure consciousness. This pure consciousness is called by modern physics the unified field. It's at the base of all mind and all matter. And they now say, modern science says, all of matter, everything that is a thing, emerges from this field. And this field has qualities like bliss, intelligence, creativity, universal love, energy, peace. And it's not the intellectual understanding of this field, but the experiencing of it that does everything.
Do you think psychedelics telling us there is something else there? Death is not the end, right?
Death is not the end.
Death is an illusion of the senses. Death is an illusion of the senses. In my book, I draw extensively on Vedic philosophy, some ideas from quantum mechanics and modern physics, and also personal experiences to suggest that what we perceive as death is simply a transition.
And you see two quotes. I used the phrase test driving death to others. What I did was I collaborated on a study with psychedelic death workers who really get it. And you see the other quote there. It's a doorway to the soul. So yes, we're on a journey, and it's just a continuation of the journey.
The soul, or let's say modified awareness, personal modified awareness, survives physical death and continues on a journey of refinement, which ultimately leads to enlightenment. This is the Vedic point of view. I propose that the afterlife is not a fixed or objective reality, but rather a state shaped by expectations and imagination and memories of the soul. So the afterlife, in this view, lasts as long as we can imagine it, and is experienced much like a dream world where souls can encounter love, compassion, strength, and truth.
In their ayahuasca journeys, the Tucano shamans experience visions, and they will then come back to an alert, normal problem-solving state of consciousness, and they will paint and depict their visions. And what's intriguing, and I go into it in the book, is that quite a number of the Tucano paintings of the other world, of the afterlife realm, of the entrance to the other world, are geometrical, and they look exactly like the geoglyphs. So I'm beginning to wonder whether these geoglyphs were part of a system of spiritual ideas concerning what happens to us after death and what we need to do in this life to ensure a beneficial outcome.
Yeah, but while we're here, we need to make the best out of it.
That's right. Yes. It's because we're living. And so, but if you learn how to die, then I think you live more fully.
That's right.
Yeah.
Then you're
Definitely.
not scared. What is it? The immortality key.
Immortality key, Brian Muraresku. I love him.
So this is the past 12 years of my life and many years beyond that. But it became a book about 12 years ago and in fits and starts. And it's essentially my hunt for the best kept secret in history, which is not bullshit marketing. This is the great Houston Smith, whom I'm sure you know very well.
Yes.
But Houston became a psychedelic initiate himself in the 1960s and called it the greatest cosmic homecoming he'd ever experienced up in Boston. And there were other folks like Huxley and Watts and people who were into this stuff before the war on drugs and before some of this sociocultural bias. And so to Houston, what was happening in ancient Greece to him was one of these best kept secrets. And he's referring there to the mysteries of Eleusis, this ancient spiritual capital in ancient Greece that called to everybody from Plato to Marcus Aurelius for like 2,000 years. And he's specifically referring to the sacrament that was used. There was a sacrament at this temple of Eleusis that was somehow part of this beatific vision that resulted, conquering the fear of death, making these people immortal. But the big question, the two big questions I try and answer are, essentially, were the ancient Greeks using drugs to find God? And number two, did the earliest Christians inherit some of that tradition?
At my age, which is now 73, I can't avoid being aware that my time on this planet is limited. My work, my studies, my experiences over the years have left me with absolutely no fear of death. I do regard it as the beginning of the next great adventure. It's something that I think is going to be fascinating
When
and
you say
interesting.
the
But can I just finish?
Please, yeah.
I fear pain. I do fear pain, really severe pain, the pain of a lingering, terrible cancer, for example. If I found myself in that situation, that's an appropriate situation to take opiates. They're heroin and heroin derivatives can be useful in the management of pain. But otherwise, I would steer completely clear of them. But yeah, the next great adventure.
What do you think that is? When you say the next great, where are you getting this belief from, and what do you think it is?
A lot of it comes from the work I've done with ayahuasca over the years. It goes back to a near-death experience I had in my late teens, massive electric shock. I left my body, was up around the light, saw myself slumped on the floor, and then I came back into my body. But from that moment, I doubted whether I am just my body or whether there's more to me than that, more to all of us than that. Ancient Egyptian ideas about this realm being a theater of experience where we come to learn and to grow and develop. We're obliged constantly, every day, to make choices, and those choices define us. And those choices may be very small or they may be very large, but we are learning, hopefully, from these. And I just don't think that this is an accident. This is my belief system. I don't commit to any of the monotheistic faiths, but this is my belief system, that this is a special place, that we are here to learn and to grow and to develop in a world that has consequences, where there will be consequences to the decisions that we make. I like the Buddhist idea of going through multiple incarnations and eventually reaching a state of perfection where you embrace nirvana. But some come back, the bodhisattvas. They choose not to go to nirvana. They come back as teachers to teach human beings how to better and improve their lives.
What is on the other side? You've been here for a while.
What is on the other side? Man, that's a good question, isn't it? I think it may be different for different people. And I think sometimes, not sometimes, I think it's based on your religious belief or your spiritual belief. And we know from near-death experiences that although there's some common experiences, there's also several different types of experiences in terms of who you see. Like you might see Jesus Christ, you might see Allah, you might see your favorite rabbi who's no longer with us, I don't know. But anyway, you know, I think you experience it from your basis of spirituality. However, what psychedelics also can do is expand that idea and introduce you to sort of this consciousness field. And what is that? I mean, I don't think any of us can really say. Even the people with near-death experiences, their experiences are like seconds, you know, maybe minutes, but, you know, they're not going to have this full experience. So, you know, I suppose one way to think about it is try it and see what happens.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rita. I appreciate it.